Hello and welcome, I'm Arumba. Thank you for joining me. Yay! It's the holidays, basically. It's still November. Tomorrow is the day that we get our patch. We get the Cossacks DLC. So yeah, we're going to listen to some Paradox, the PDX Christmas Carol, while we go over those patch notes. Oh, we'll also listen to some other music. We're not going to just listen to it on repeat. That'd be crazy. Alright, so this is a very big patch. There are over 600 lines of changes. We'll see how quickly we can get through them. We may skip some of the bug fix stuff near the bottom and the modding stuff because most people don't care about that. They care about the major overarching changes. So let's just begin. So expansion only features. You have to purchase the Cossacks DLC to get these specific features. Number 1, diplomatic feedback. There is now a new interface in the diplomacy view called diplomatic feedback. Here you can set your attitude toward other nations, see what provinces they're interested in conquering, and see their trust towards you and the amount of favors that they owe. Favors are gained by being allies and by helping each other in war, and can be used to raise trust or call them into your wars. You can also set provinces as being of interest to your nation so that AI allies will know to give them to you in peace deals. One of my favorite parts of this is that if you set manually an enemy nation to be hostile, then your vassals and PU subjects, like anyone that's underneath you, colonial nations, they will fabricate claims on that person. So you can direct your vassal-based expansion, which is quite nice. Estates. Nearly all countries now have estates representing powerful groupings in the country, such as nobility and priesthood. Estates have a loyalty and influence level and can control territory, granting various benefits at the cost of local autonomy. A powerful state will have significant effects on the country that are good or bad depending on whether they are loyal or not. Estates that grow extremely powerful will attempt to seize power in the country or break away to form their own nation. So my experience with this so far, just lower the volume here on this music just a little bit. Alright, so yeah, my experience with the state so far is that, so like, theocracies do not get them, republics, merchant republics specifically don't get them. For some reason, Dutch republics do, which actually kind of feels like a bug to me. What else? Ming does not get estates. Basically, if you have legitimacy, there's a very, very big chance that you're going to have estates in your country. However, hordes, sorry, have a tribe estate, even though they have the new horde mechanic, which we'll talk about in a moment. It's an interesting feature. It's a peacetime activity. It's something you usually spend your time doing during peace. After conquering land, you kind of dole out new territory to your estates, and the more strong you make them, you can get better bonuses. But you also have to watch out because they can potentially cause problems, just like the changelog says. Which is basically going to fire like a disaster type event, kind of like the Peasants' War. So it's a big deal. Like, you don't want the bourgeoisie to take over your French territory. Native policies. You can now choose a policy for how you handle. I'm just going to go ahead and add that for them. We can, append that to the actual patch notes. You can now choose a policy for how you handle the native population in colonies between coexistence, trading, and repression, with each giving a different benefit. So, remember how you used to be, you'd colonize, and then sometime within the first year you'd get a random event saying like, hey, how do we want to move forward? And you never really knew exactly what the long-term effect was. Well, now you can clearly see, if you choose coexistence, minus 100% chance of native uprising. Pretty freaking awesome. Trading is minus 50% chance of uprising, but you also have plus 50% assimilation rate, which I'm assuming, I don't actually see in the details in the text what it actually means, but I'm assuming that means like you get 50% more population value from the number of natives in the province. And then repression, you get neither of those things. Native attacks are more likely, but you get plus 20 global settler increase. Now, it's worth noting that you can freely change between all three of these different policies. However, it does cost 1 stability. I did not yet get a chance to test to see if having full diplomatic ideas would reduce that penalty to 0, which is kind of usually how diplomatic ideas works when it comes to things that cause stab hits. I remember in the last patch messing around with like revoking March status and revoking protectorate status. You can freely revoke March status if you have full diplomatic, but you can't do it with protectorates. So it's kind of hit or miss. I'm not really sure if it would work for that or not. Threaten war adds a diplomatic option to let you demand a province that you have a claim or core on. If the demand is accepted, the province is yours, otherwise war ensues. This is nice, but generally speaking, you can only use it against someone who's really, really weak, which you could probably beat anyway, unless maybe they have like a really annoying alliance chain or something. The problem is that you get a lot more aggressive expansion from doing this than you would from just taking the province in war. So there's a trade-off. I haven't really found a situation where I'd prefer to do that. I suppose if you just wanted to have no manpower loss and just get a free province, that's nice. The autonomy that you get on the province is the same as if you'd conquered it, so that's cool. Forced migration, added a new CB that lets you force a migratory neighbor to move to another province. Okay. Concede colonial area, added a new peace option available when you have a colonial nation to take all provinces owned by the enemy in that region. Colonial region, pretty cool. Advanced change culture allows you to restore cultures or change to neighboring ones at reduced costs rather than only the primary culture. So for example, if instead, like say you have a culture that's at like 9.8% and you can't quite get it up to the 10% you need to make it an accepted culture because you have humanist ideas or something. It used to be that you were just kind of screwed. You could either bump up the development or try to conquer more land, but if there was no more land, then you just couldn't do it. Well, now you can convert a wrong culture to that culture and then bring that one up to accepted level versus just being forced to go to primary culture, which is quite cool. Declare colonial war. When declaring war, you can choose to make a colonial war against overseas opponents. This disables calling in your allies, but allows you to call in your protectorates. So normally you can never call your protectorates into offensive wars. You can only defend them. The enemy can still call their allies in as normal. So for example, if you have a whole bunch of protectorates in Africa, and you want to attack, Songhai or something, you can call in all those protectorates against Songhai, which is pretty cool. Name your heir. You can now name your heirs. A button is available to re-roll another random name. So that's kind of cool. One minor complaint that I have is that if you are playing as a horde, for example, Uzbek, and you have the Regency event fire where you're not allowed to have a child, no child can rule, that kind of thing, then it spawns a random ruler for you and you can't name him, which is unfortunate. But, makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like you're getting usurped. Horde Unity. Horde Unity is a new mechanic that for hordes replaces legitimacy. It decreases at a steady rate and must be maintained via looting and raising provinces. My experience with this is that it is a 100 score value all the time, always. It's very, very, very easy to maintain. Of course, I'm very aggressive. I attack a lot, so that might be why. But, yeah, so you don't have legitimacy as a horde anymore. Raise. Hordes can now raise non-core provinces that they own. Raising a province lowers its development permanently and gives the horde monarch power relative to the amount of development raised. Expect this to be maybe nerfed a little bit because it's really, really, really strong and a lot of fun. So I would really highly recommend playing with a horde as soon as the patch goes live before it gets nerfed, because it's fun. It's cool. It's good stuff. For comparison's sake, I have a horde in the year 1500. I am ahead of time by 7 years on every technology. I am teching up faster than the Ottomans, who are usually on par with Western, and I'm at a point where I can tech up to tech like 9, I think it is. I'm not sure exactly where I'm at, but I can tech up faster than the Western nations can because of the way that Monarch point cap works. Like with the ahead of time penalty, they can't possibly take the tech because it costs more than 1,000 points. But because I can store like 1,700, I could theoretically actually tech up ahead of Western nations, which is kind of insane. So yeah, anyway, it's fun. You should try it. Tengri nations can pick a syncretic faith from among the religions in their provinces and neighbors. Provinces of the syncretic faith are treated exactly as though they were Tengri, using tolerance of the true faith. And countries of that religion will view the Tengri nation as though they were their own faith. The national bonuses for being Tengri differs based on which syncretic faith is picked, with a different set for each religion. Now, it's worth noting that if you have no syncretic faith chosen, you also get a bonus. So you are trading away a bonus for a different bonus, and you're also getting this other thing of being treated as if you were of their own faith. I haven't tested this because I haven't played as a Tengri yet, but I think that you can actually royal marry other nations of that religion if they permit royal marriages, and you have them set as syncretic. It's interesting. It's kind of cool. I haven't played with it much. Grant Province. Added a new subject interaction that lets you grant a province to a subject. It's very good. I made the mistake of accidentally clicking wrong and assuming you could only grant them one province at a time. Kind of the way that it used to work with selling a province to a vassal, where if they had any overextension, they wouldn't buy more provinces. That's not exactly how it works. You can actually just keep granting them more and more land. This makes feeding vassals very, very simple. And as a horde, it's really nice because you conquer the land yourself with 0 Diplo point, Casus Belli, raise it all, and then just grant it out to your vassals, which is really awesome, really strong. Grant core or claim. Added a new subject interaction that lets you grant one of your core or claims to a subject. I haven't really found much reason for this yet, unless maybe you just want to... I don't know. It's interesting. Well, I'll try it. Maybe I'll find a purpose for it, but it's nice. Build directly to Army, Navy. Clicking the plus buttons in the Army panel will build a unit, move to it move it to and merge it with the selected unit. Note, this only works if they stay still. If your army is on the move, armies will not dynamically like adjust their path to meet up with the moving army. So it works well in peace, not so great in war. I think it works kind of with like light ship patrolling a sea tile, because even if the navy's moving, which obviously it is, the new navy comes and like automatically gets the trade mission and then eventually meets up with the navy. So that's kind of cool. Built-in subjects. It is now possible to recruit armies and build ships in your subjects' lands as long as their liberty desire is below 50. Pretty damn awesome when it comes to being overseas for colonial nations and stuff. Distribute spoils. When signing peace, gold and prestige is now distributed between allies according to war participation instead of all of it going to the war leader. What's war participation, you say? Well, apparently we're not going to talk about that just yet. It's going to be later on. I believe it's part of the free patch. Victory cards. Countries at 300 development or more will now get victory cards every 100 years from 1450 and forward. That will grant 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and finally 4,000 points if they are held. Because, you know, everyone cares so much about the score mechanic. A victory card requires you to own, control, and core an entire area, and will be randomly picked from nearby areas of possible rivals. So, you know, this is probably more about multiplayer. Again, score is really highly irrelevant for the most part in single player, but in multiplayer, maybe, you know, it's what you use to say you're better than other people. Study technology, new spy action that allows you to send a spy to a more technologically advanced country to study their technology, granting +1 monarch point per month in each category where they are ahead by at least 2 techs. Note, this is an interaction that requires you to have the spy espionage idea group. So don't get too excited. It's cool, but it's a catch-up mechanic for non-Western nations. Because if you are Western and you are two tech levels behind, you're doing it wrong. You shouldn't be 2 tech levels behind as a Western nation. So it's generally going to be like, you know, China area take espionage and then study the technology of Western people to gain some more monarch points. It's not going to make up for the fact that they're Chinese, but it's kind of nice, I guess. Agitate for Liberty added new spy action that allows you to send a spy to raise the liberty desire of another nation's subject. Again, this is a espionage idea group action, so nice, but will we see it? Probably not much. Espionage in general is a pretty crap idea group for single player. In multiplayer, it could be pretty cool. I guess maybe we'll see. Added events for Tengri Syncretic Fates. Added events for the different estates. Chance for occupation is now available to players with the Cossacks, even if they do not have Art of War. And disabled sell province to subjects when Cossacks DLC is enabled, since Grant Province is a more fleshed out alternative. Right, okay, so those are the paid for features. Everything else, updated expansion features. This stuff all comes for free, automatically. Actually, apparently it starts here. Naval exploration missions from El Dorado are initiated when you click on Terra Incognita if corresponding exploration mission is possible. That's pretty sweet. Massive rework to Random New World from Conquest of Paradise now uses a tile-based system with custom scenarios to create far more interesting and believable Random New Worlds. There is an option to enable or disable fantasy content from Random New Worlds, such as being able to encounter highly advanced Native American empires. It's pretty cool. So yeah, we're at 13 minutes so far, and we are 5% of the way through the patch. Like I said, it's a big one. Free features. Exclaves will now use regional naming, such as Swedish West Africa instead of just Sweden. So if you played Victoria 2, you're familiar with British Africa, you know, or like British India. This is how it looks like in EU4 now as well. Nation-forming decisions now use permanent claims that do not expire unless revoked through war. These permanent claims also have an increased coring cost reduction from 10% to 25%, so very strong. So like when you form Russia, you get a claim on the entire Russian region for the rest of the game, unless someone forces you to lose the claims. Implement a concept called revanchism, which gives countries that lose a war a boost to income and manpower recovery after the war. It's cool. It also affected my Horde Unity one time when I surrendered in a war, I think. I didn't lose a war, I don't remember. But it's interesting. I couldn't find a tooltip for it anywhere. It exists. It could be because in the version of the game I was playing, it just didn't have the modifier somewhere, but I don't know where the number came from. It's nice, it's cool. If you lose wars, it's, you know, catch-up mechanic. Reworked mercenaries. Instead of a pool that randomly fills, each country now has a mercenary support limit of 20 plus 33% of force limits, and you can recruit up to this number of mercenaries of any mix of types you want. Mercenaries can now also be included in the army planner template and will automatically upgrade when you change your unit type. So no longer do you have to cycle mercenaries to try to keep them up to date, or like have a whole bunch of them that are 1 tech level behind. And then also, it's nice that you don't have to wait for like random mercs to show up in the merc list. Like you'll just always have the same amount. There is one negative side effect, and that is that you cannot have a pure like force limit worth of merc army, unless you have what would 20 plus 33% of your force limit, whatever that number would be. Like if you have like a force limit of 200, you can't have a pure merc army anymore, even though you used to be able to in the past over a long period of time. That's fine though. I mean, it's kind of silly to think that there'd be that many mercs even available. Replace the events that assign trade goods to provinces with a system of scripted weights and made it possible to see what trade goods a province can get by hovering over the unknown trade good in province view or hovering over the province and trade goods map mode. It's no longer possible to pass through a canal if you're at war with or embargoed by the controller. Yes! I still think it's not enough. I still think that they should require naval fleet basing to be able to use your canal. But hey, the canals are kind of a gimmicky mechanic anyway, just for fun. So, if you're going to build a canal, you've pretty much already won the game. It's not like you're in the year 1700 and you're like, you know what I need to win this game is a canal. No, you have tons of money and nothing else to do, so you build a canal. But it's kind of nice that there's a mechanic there to restrict it a little bit more. New map modes, new map mode selection interface, 10 rather than 6 slots, 4 separate group lists, much easier to find stuff. It really is. It's great. It's a good change. And again, you have 10 keybinds now, which is Q through P across the top of your keyboard. Very nice. A map icon will now appear in a province if combat is predicted between one of your or your allies' armies and an enemy army. I'm going to go ahead and just, say that this is the defining feature of the patch. I've said this before. I said this during the stream. Like, I feel like Paradox does this really good job in, like, making these awesome patches. And they list all these things, like 600 lines of code. They're like, oh, look at all these changes we made. And they always seem to just not recognize what the absolute best change in the patch is. And I'm just going to tell them, it's this. This is the best change in the patch. The fact that you can see when there will be combat just by looking at the map. It's just so amazing. Like, it's so hard to go back to playing the old version of the game after having this. Which is probably why they don't think it's that big of a deal. They've been playing with it for months since they've been working on the patch. This is going to, like, revolutionize the game. It is so freaking good. The macro builder got a facelift with more information and some sortable columns. It's better. It's better. I still want more. Country view, the interface you get when you click your country shield, got a facelift with more and better spaced information. Yep, there's more details on your own personal country view. On all country views, actually. It's quite nice. Army and Navy maintenance will not automatically be raised, and forts will be activated when you enter into a war. This feature can be turned off in the military view, so you don't have to have it. It's very nice if you are the type of person who forgets to raise your maintenance before war, or if you get declared upon, it just automatically raises the maintenance for you. Iron Man games can now be played with mods and various gameplay options. Achievements, however, will only be gained if certain criteria are fulfilled. So Iron Man can be used with mods. Some people really have a hard time not cheating, and they have a hard, they've asked for this. They've asked for the ability to use Iron Man with mods, and now you can. The great thing is as well that you can do certain achievements now that are like based on being a custom nation and stuff, which is great. When starting a new single-player game, a dialogue for selecting Iron Man or normal game is now shown. The dialogue shows if/Y achievements cannot be gained. Added a continue game button that starts the game from the last locally saved single-player game. Super useful. If you only have one typical campaign going at once, it's very useful. Added prevent nation ruining multiplayer option, which blocks certain destructive actions by players that have lost a war as their truces after that war are in effect. I've never had any experience with this whatsoever, but apparently this is a thing in big multiplayer games where if like you have a stroke of bad luck, you just you just ruin your nation. I guess you can't do that with this option enabled. Added 25 new achievements, 5 of which work specifically with custom nations. The remaining armies of a country annexed as a result of a peace treaty now become nationalist rebels. This surprised me. I was playing as Uzbek and I conquered like Mongolia or something, and I was like, oh, I don't need to fight their army because I'm about to peace them out. The army will just disappear. No, they don't. They become nationalist rebels. So yeah, you do need to fight them, which is good. It makes sense. The army just like disappearing is kind of weird. Cultural unions are no longer tied to tags, but rather can be gained for its primary culture group by any country with empire rank or at least 1,000 development without common sense. Okay, fine. Advisors. Countries with incomes less than 10 ducats will no longer get level 2 advisors except by event, and countries with incomes less than 50 ducats will no longer get level 3 advisors except by event. That is an amazing change. Not having to like hope that you have 1 in 3 chance of actually having a decent general, or sorry, decent advisor. it's nice having 3 level 1 advisors to choose from when you're kind of poor, and levels 1s and 2s when you're a little bit richer, and then it just makes sense. I still feel like you should be able to hire whoever the hell you want. I think it's kind of silly that the whole concept. I mean, yes, they made it possible. You can fire advisors and just still pray that you find the right one that you want. I just always found it kind of silly. It's like, whoa, there's no theologian available. Surely you're not trying to tell me that there's no theologian available anywhere in our entire country. We can't find some schmuck somewhere who's a theologian and hire him as our advisor, right? You're not serious, are you? Because that's how I feel sometimes when it's like, I just want a theologian. Like, that's the advisor I want. Why can't we have one? But hey, it's fine. It's fine. It's an improvement. Development levels over 30 no longer contribute to higher coring and culture conversion costs. What that means is that the most you can possibly pay to core a province is 300. The most you can possibly pay to Diplo converted, I believe, would be then 600. Might be less now, I'm not sure. Refactored local autonomy to apply multiplicatively to manpower tax and production rather than additively. This makes effects of low local autonomy more severe. So it used to be, like, let's say you had, plus 20% national tax modifier from some idea or something, and you had minus, say, only 80% autonomy. Well, the two would offset each other, and you'd end up with 100% of the normal production. Now, it would work different. Now, it would be 120% times 0.8. So in this case, that would be, well, I could probably do this in my head, but I won't, because that'd be silly, 96%. So it's less. Not by much, but if you have much, much lower, like if you have 0% autonomy, for example, then you just get 0 income whatsoever. Reduced impact of local autonomy on recruit and shipbuilding times. Seems fine. Increased base number of buildings per province from 1 to 2. Ooh, that's very nice. Removed build cost increase from tropical, Arctic, and arid. Still has the development cost penalties. Arctic provinces now have 1 less building slot. Farmlands now only have +1 building, down from +2, but it is 5% cheaper to develop. Again, keep in mind that everything just gained a building slot, so farmlands didn't lose one. There's now a 5% per 100 country development bonus to development cost in the capital province. So you're saying that when I have a 2,000 development empire, that it'll have a minus 100% development cost? Looking forward to trying that. There is an increased cost for moving your capital to a province with lower development than your current capital. Higher the more total development you have. You now get a relation hit with every country that has the primary culture of the culture you are converting. Makes sense. Changing a province's culture is no longer blocked by primary tag of that culture existing. Removed the opinion penalty for competing great power, as it has little effect and is frequently nonsensical in the early game. Thank God. I hated that thing. I've never understood. It's like, oh yeah, well we could be allies, but I'm a competing great power. It's like the way that it was calculated before, by the way, is that if they were top 10 in any of the 3 categories, they would consider themselves to be a great power. So what would usually happen is you would have like, I don't know, some little crap country like Trebizond, who's allied to, Georgia and Poland or something. I mean, maybe that doesn't usually happen, but, they'd be allied to like somebody really strong. So they'd have a really high diplomatic score rank because they would have strong allies, which gives a bunch of points. And so they would be in the top 10 for some reason. And then you would go to ally them for, again, whatever reason. And they'd be like, no, I'm not going to ally you. I'm a competing great power. And you're like, what the hell are you smoking, man? You are a one province minor. Like, you're nuts. And this is exactly the nonsensical early game behavior that we're talking about. Increased opinion impacts of rivalry. Monarchies that are allied to a revolutionary target now still get the penalty for revolution. Breaking an alliance now gives a 5-year truce. I like this change. It's really quite logical. But it does kind of change the way that I backstab the AI. Used to be that you could ally a country, attack another country with that country's help, force them to do most of the work so that they get really weak, break the alliance after the war was over, and then attack them. But now you have a 5-year truce if you break the alliance. So I'm still wondering if there's a way to like kind of work your way around it, like doing a forced call to arms that they'll decline, because then they broke the alliance. It'll probably still get the truce. I haven't tested it, but it's a good change. It's just, I like to mess with the AI. It's fun. Removed the has Casus Belli opinion modifier and increased opinion effects of having cores and claims, as the former did not mesh well with Imperialism CB in late game. Duh. When Imperialism came out, every single country in the game had -15 has claim, like has Casus Belli. It was like, come on, seriously? So everyone in the whole world just hates each other by 15 more now because we all have Imperialism? Yeah, so that's good. So cores and claims is the actual one that does it now. There's now a plus 50 opinion bonus with a neighboring country if you both border a more advanced neighbor. Advanced as in it fulfilling tech group requirements to protectorate you. Okay. Sounds good. Signing an alliance now removes the rejected alliance modifier between the countries. Cool. That's awesome. So if you accidentally decline a request and then decide to do it a little bit later, you get rid of the rejected alliance modifier. I wonder if in looking at that diplomatic option, it considers whether they would accept if they didn't have that opinion penalty, or if you still have to wait for it to like tick down low enough that they would accept. No longer possible to select peace treaties for allies that do not want them. It never really should have been, but yep, good. Improved relations is now bidirectional. Your opinion of the target country will also be improved at half the speed up to a maximum of plus 50. Really, that is pretty cool, actually. So you can speed up the rate that other countries like you, and then also, like, if somehow you have a low opinion of them, you bring your own opinion of them up. That's good. Because I've always hated when, like, you have negative 60 opinion or something and you can't offer an alliance because you don't like them, which is just weird. So that's really interesting. That's also really useful because a lot of times when you're strong, the AI will improve relations with you, and so they will be improving your opinion of them. No, obviously your opinion of them, but they will be improving their own opinion of you, which means that if countries want to ally you, they're even less likely to join coalitions. Ooh, I feel like this is going to make it so that coalitions are a non-factor in the current patch. I like it, I do, but just the fact that basically every country that's adjacent to you that's scared of you, if they're threatened, they're going to try to improve relations with you to prevent you from wanting to attack them. And yeah, we'll see. The Castilian Civil War disaster is now a disaster exclusive to Castile. Unifying Spain in time will allow you to avoid it. The Janissary Decadence event will now only trigger 100 years after the Janissary modifier is acquired by the Ottomans. Protectorates, colonial nations, and personal union juniors no longer have a penalty to their development costs, only vassals and marches. Provinces now take longer to start recovering from being looted. Okay. How much longer? Numbers would be nice. Provinces that have hostile units still standing in them will no longer recover from being looted, even if they run out of loot. Yeah. Okay, sure. I mean, that makes sense. It shouldn't really start the timer until a hostile enemy leaves. Fabricate claims will be 4 times slower for the remaining duration if discovered. This is a pretty significant change when it comes to fabricating claims on non-rivals. You're far more likely to get caught, and I'm actually wondering if it makes sense to send and retreat, like, you know, retract and resend if you get caught early on. Probably would. Although you could get the aggressive expansion again. But aggressive expansion is really low from claims now. It's only like 2.5. Local spy defense is no longer a factor. Instead, all spy factors are global. Okay, good. Seems like a good thing to optimize the game a little bit. Having local spy defense calculated for every single province was probably a bit overkill. Countries with their capital in a colonial region can now auto-discover provinces in colonial regions since they can't use Hunt for the 7 cities. Reduced frequency land exploration events not relating to the 7 cities of gold. ICTA now gives plus 5% global tax modifier instead of plus 100% air chance. I've never found that Muslim countries have any issue whatsoever with airs. The 100% increased air chance is just really strong most of the time. Tweak the bonuses of tribal governments to be more balanced towards each other. Free reinforcement for nomads is now tied to the step horde government form instead of ideas. Yeah, I was wondering. I couldn't see that in my ideas playing as Uzbek, and I did find it eventually under the government location, so cool. Noble Republic is now a very unattractive form of government. Requires a very high percentage of land granted to nobility and can only be changed out of with a decision. Hordes no longer take a prestige loss for selling provinces, returning provinces, and releasing vassals peacefully. Increase maximum number of free cities to 8, up from 7. Horma's fourth idea now gives plus 1 diplomatic reputation. Most national ideas that were minus 15% or more to build cost are now minus 10%. Colonial ideas now start with minus 10% development instead of minus 0.1 inflation. Well, a lot of colonial nations are going to have gold mines. I wonder if that's a good thing or not. No longer possible to pick naval or maritime ideas for primitives. That makes sense, considering they can't build boats. Replaced quantity. National arsenal with mercenary contracts, giving plus 50% possible mercenaries. National arsenal. Quantity, national arsenal. Is that national manpower modifier, I think? It could be. I can't remember. Buffed Mighty Gotland's ideas. No clue. Reduced the power of colonial ideas religious outposts from plus 3% to plus 2% missionary strength. Policy for quantity and expansion now increases land force limits instead of giving an extra colonist. Yeah, I was looking for that. We were doing a test stream looking at the Ideas Guy achievement, and we couldn't find it in the policies, and that's apparently where it went. War taxes now increases possible mercenaries. Yeah, because I've never used that in the last year and a half, because it's dumb now. I just, war taxes is never worth the money. It barely saves you anything. I don't know, I like it. Nation Designer now allows native consuls in South America. Random setup, less tendency to create superstates. Double the distance at which you can pick provinces that are not connected to your capital in the Nation Designer. Ruler skill now costs less points in governments with term durations. Well, that's really good for like republics and stuff. Interesting. Changed maximum number of custom nations, client states, and colonial nations to 75 each. Wow. Whoa. You can't have 75 personal custom nations, is that? No. I remember you could only have 20. Can you actually create like 75 client states underneath you? I want to do this. I want to have 75 client states. Eclipse Rival is now plus 10 power projection, up from plus 5. Power projection now gives a prestige bonus of up to plus 0.5. That's cool. Reduce the power projection loss for having provinces taken from you. Greatly reduced doom reduction from occupying provinces. Reduce the penalties from too high or too low karma. Penalty for high karma is now discipline, and low karma diplomatic reputation. Shinto no longer gives negative tolerance to heathens. Karma is now gained relative to the province's development sum rather than province count. Karma, karma, karma. Centers of Reformation can now only appear in temperate provinces with 10 or more development. Cool. Most rebels can now relocate. Well, they probably still aren't very good, though. Recent uprising modifier is now minus 100% revolt risk instead of minus 20, so it should always prevent revolts. That's really nice. So if you have like a really, really high revolt risk province and you lower autonomy anyway, then you're just dealing with one rebellion instead of having it fire a couple times in a row. Giving in to zealot rebels of your own religion will no longer increase missionary strength. Instead, it will add a 10% tech malice for 10 years. Huh. Okay. Zealot rebels of your own religion will no longer convert provinces they take. Instead, the religious violence modifier will be added to such provinces. Damn! There goes my the classic way of, forced conversion. I've done it a number of times where you instigate a rebellion just to have them help you convert. Okay, well that's fine though. It's a good change. Protectorates now base their liberty desire on the combined power of all protectorates of the same overlord. Remove the horde restriction on marches, so we can make horde marches now. Cool. Increase liberty desire from relative power of subjects. Interesting. Having the same dynasty as a vassal or march will now reduce their liberty desire. Increase the base income and force limits of subjects slightly. I wonder by how much, because subjects have a very, very small support force limit right now, or they did. There's now a minus 100 opinion modifier for having forced vassalized or enforced a union upon a subject. Subject interactions start colonial war, now renamed to start war in colony to avoid confusion with new colonial war concept. Can now do the enforced religion subject interaction on colonies as well. Hordes reforming their government now always get the Chinese tech group unless they have a Muslim faith. Nomad group unit type now have units at various tech levels throughout the game, so you don't have to reform, which is interesting. Spread out the military tactics a bit further. I believe, yeah, like tech... Well, didn't that change last patch? Like Tech 9 is where you get military tactics. Have trade efficiency and production efficiency gained from technologies. Okay. It is no longer possible to block a strait for an army whose war allies control both sides of that strait. So, if your troops get stuck on the island next to Sweden, I believe it's called Åland, or take like Skane and Sjælland in Denmark, all you'd have to do then is move another army adjacent to that province, and then one of the armies could cross, which is interesting and different and hard to adjust to. Forts that have been captured by the enemy will now have a zone of control and block movement for enemies of the controller. Forts now have a zone of control over any country's provinces, but will only flip your own, meaning they can block enemy movement through friendly and neutral land. Movement through a country's own provinces cannot be blocked if a fort from that country is protecting those provinces. So, zone of control is really weird now. Zone of control has changed so significantly now. Picture it more like if you put an army within an enemy zone of control, your army is stuck in that circle. It can go anywhere in the circle. It's no longer that you can only go to the fort itself. You can go around, you can travel in a circle, but you can't leave. Ever. You can't even go back out the way you came in. I've had armies that just move in, and then they're just completely stuck until you finish the siege. So it's radically different. You've got to adjust to it. Only the Coalition and Crush the Revolution CBs can now be used to start coalition wars. Makes sense, actually. I remember I've used the Coalition for my own benefit by declaring a war without using the Coalition CB. It is once again possible to transfer occupation to any war ally. That's cool. Forcing countries to revoke coercive claims on a third party will give that third party a little relation boost with you. Peace demands now cause a stability hit when declined if the negotiating country has at least 50 war score and the AI would accept the demand. Huh, okay, so they took that away and now they added it back in. If the negotiating country has at least 50 war score and the AI would have accepted it. Okay, so it probably only applies to players, because that's what they had done. They took that away from... You can't stab hit the AI. I don't think that they've changed that back in. I think it's more of a peace deal thing with players for multiplayer. Armies that win battles will now gain a significant boost in morale to prevent situations where an army is stack wiped due to winning a narrowly fought battle and then immediately being attacked. Amount of morale regained depends on the strength of the enemy army defeated relative to their own strength. Interesting. So you know how like you're attacking a country and sometimes you had to like force yourself to retreat so that you wouldn't get stack wiped because you'd see another army coming and you were about to win. I'm wondering if now maybe you can actually hold that mountainous province. That would be cool. You can now only call allies to war if you know they'll accept. And after they've been called, they will automatically accept without calculating acceptance gain. Oh, okay, so apparently you can't force allies to break alliances by force calling them to a war you know they won't accept. Okay, that's fine. Prestige gain from peace concessions involving provinces are now reduced by administrative efficiency as you can take much more. Okay. You can now sign a peace that would result in going down to negative 999 dip. You can now sign a peace. Oh. Okay, alright, fine. AI. AI is now good. No, it's not. Fixed a bug where the AI would accept being given parts of a peace offer it didn't want if you also gave it everything it wanted. Okay. Fixed a bug where the AI would not want its course back in peace deals under certain circumstances. Seems kind of silly. AI attitudes are now hard-coded to both improve performance and make the AI more consistent and logical in its attitude selection. AI is now more likely to diplomatically annex a vassal. Previous conditions on DipRep were too harsh. The AI is now more likely to befriend and less likely to antagonize countries that it has the share advanced neighbor opinion bonus toward. Okay, so Portugal colonizes India, or invades India. Those nations are more likely to be friendly against Portugal. Sounds like. Subjects will now agree to buy wrong culture religion provinces if vassal buy any province is set to 1, default being on. Awesome! Subjects will now buy any wrong culture, wrong religion province. Awesome! Man, this is Vassal Swarm patch 2.0. Like, this is going to be the vassal game again. Very exciting. AI under the economy subsection should now recall merchants that are forwarding trade in places where they no longer have an interest in doing so. More budget towards colonizing and custom setup. AI will now only use... AI will use only min ships to explore ships for new exploration. We'll now pick idea groups dynamically instead of always using historical groups. Historical groups are weighted more highly when picking. So we might see, I don't know, Castile not go colonizing. Portugal not pick up colonial ideas. Religion will now cancel missionaries that have no hope of completing their assignment due to low missionary strength. I feel like there should also be an alert for that, by the way. Because sometimes that happens as a player where you have a missionary and he's like at 90% and you're like, oh, he'll be done soon. But then you eventually look at it and you see that he's got 0.0% progress. Because he can't, because some modifier changed somewhere. AI protectorates will no longer westernize. Really? Okay. Well, what? So you're saying I can protectorate like Africa and they'll just never try to westernize? That makes some sense, but at the same time that means that if you protectorate someone you can basically never attack them. Because normally you would protectorate them and then they would westernize and then break free and then you could attack them again. Huh. Will now cancel prepared wars if it starts westernizing. Will no longer suicide ships against navies that it thinks are leaving a province before they actually are. Fixed a bug in the AI's evaluation of supply limit, which could differ from real supply limit, resulting in pointless attrition. I don't believe it, Wiz. The AI will still continue to suicide its armies. I just don't believe it. They will always be bad at this. AI will blockade more aggressively when it has overwhelming naval superiority. Made AI somewhat less likely to choose provinces next to siege armies to support them when no enemies close in an effort to reduce attrition. Now willing to lift sieges of unfortified provinces that aren't the war goal to help nearby friends in battle. AI main armies evaluate provinces further, should be farther, excuse me, English. Farther denotes distance, further denotes like, you know, a greater amount of or something. Anyway, so I'm just gonna fix that for them. Farther. Not far as faster, farther. AI main armies evaluate province farther away when deciding where to go, decreasing the likelihood of AI ignoring far away. See, you used it there properly. So further away. I'm sorry, I'm being really annoying. AI splinter armies should be more likely to find their way towards their toward. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I'm just like going into spell check mode. I don't believe towards isn't even. It's not even a word, is it? It's just toward. Find their way toward the main army rather than refusing to move. We'll no longer send their armies to help out in sieges led by countries that are in a different war. Well, that's good. They probably shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. Interbase. Rebel uprising alert will now only appear when rebels are 2 ticks away from revolting, usually at 80% progress. Awesome! Okay, that could potentially be at 60% if you're over 100% overextension, because it goes by 20% increments at that level. That's good. I always felt like 50% was like it's like, thanks for letting me know that I don't have to worry about this for 6 months. And then you forget, and then it happens anyway. So this is much better. This is like, okay, I desperately need to pay attention to this. I might need to do harsh treatment territory. This is a great change. Expanded diplomacy categories are now saved in save game. Oh my god. Okay, so Paradox, I was wrong. This is the best change in this patch right here. That's not true. The other one was actually better, but this one's pretty freaking awesome because I always open all the diplomacy categories, and every single time I load the game, I have to open them all, and it's annoying. And now it remembers it, which is amazing. Score is now shown with a tooltip at every nation in diplomacy. Yeah, whatever. Saves are now quarterly instead of monthly. What? Awesome! That's awesome. That's really good. People will save scum a lot more now because it's a lot easier to Alt F4. Task manager kill if it's quarterly. Anyway. Added options for showing colored wastelands. Renaming. I'm going to change that off, actually. It's weird. I don't like it. I keep on trying to move into wasteland territory because it looks like land that I can move into. It looks great on the political map mode, but I would say that on, I don't know, maybe at war, like it shouldn't show it. I don't know. It's very confusing for me, so I'm going to turn that off. Exit to menu button in game and back button in main lobby. Now restart the game rather than attempting to reset the game state. This results in speed and stability improvements in practice. It also guarantees the correct checksum for multiplayer, which is very nice. Added enable custom nation checkbox for host in multiplayer to avoid players creating custom nations before random new world or save games are loaded. Games saved with major DLCs enabled can no longer be loaded if any of those DLCs is currently disabled. It makes sense. There was a few exploits you could do in, for achievements where you would like turn on and turn off certain DLCs depending on what you were trying to do. I don't know. I could see why that would be an issue. Removed obsolete can send office column from Ledger trade page. Ledger now shows development instead of base tax for possible colonies. Added column in Ledger to indicate player or AI in the score page. Colored Wasteland is now on by default and based on owning more than half of neighboring provinces. Colored Wastelands now also writes out country name over the wasteland as though it was part of the country. Again, it's fine, but it's confusing for troop movement. Unless you know where the wasteland provinces are. See, like in the old world, it's not that big of a deal. But I was playing with a custom nation, and there was like random wasteland, and I had no idea where it was. And I was like, oh, I can march here. No, you can't. It's not an actual province you can move into. Added map mode for victor cards. Improve the trade goods map mode. Possible trade goods are now shown as stipes on the map. You now get a message when a loan is automatically renewed. It is now possible to use historical country names in random and default setup. Added support for saving loading custom nations. Really awesome. So you can create a save nation, custom nation, save it, and then load it up at any time. So you can make all your fancy pants custom nations. You still can't load in like default ideas. Like you can't load up Portuguese ideas, for example, or the Ottomans ideas with their minus 33% coining cost. That would be nice, but can now cancel all construction types in Outliner by right-clicking entries. Ooh, very nice. Can now shift-click. Can now hold shift when left-clicking on armies and navies in Outliner to add to rather than replace selection. Ooh, I didn't know that. That's nice. Okay. Tooltip for when you can't demand a province due to not being a core should be clear as to why. Designate a march button in diplomatic interface now actually describes what a march is. 6 months later. Added more tooltips for disabled buttons in the front end. Added tooltip for religion and colonization view. Added tooltips for religions in the province view and religion tab. Added maintenance cost to fort cost tooltip. Okay, user modding. This is where we're gonna call it good. We're halfway through. There's probably some really good stuff in here, but this is not really gonna be very important to too many people. Like there's new achievements. There's new decisions. Integrating Lithuania via decision is no longer possible if they have grown by over 10 provinces. Okay, that's pretty important. Apparently you can't vassal feed these countries and then just click a button to integrate them all. You would be forced into annexing them. Very interesting. I wonder if there is any kind of indication at how close they are to that threshold. It makes sense though, because it was kind of a gaming thing, you know, like start as Poland, conquer the world, vassal feed everything to Lithuania, click a button, one tag. Kind of weird. Okay. Yep. Granada's no longer an empire or a kingdom or whatever they were. They're just a duchy. That's good. Ragusa now starts guaranteed by the Ottomans. Cool. Yeah, I've noticed that. I've noticed that the Ottomans have been like protecting Ragusa, which is good. Obviously, if they're guaranteed, then that's what they're going to do. Okay, subjects no longer return provinces. I think this actually happened to me where like, you sell a province to one of your vassals because you want them to core it, and they just return it to another AI. They're just like, I don't want this. Like, oh, sure, I'll take it, but no, I'm going to give it away. And you're like, God damn it, you little bastard, you're not supposed to do that. Right, so there's lots of stuff in here if you care about like modding and scripting and all that stuff. But I'm going to wrap the stream up here, or not stream, sorry, the patch notes video here, because it's already 46 minutes long, and we don't want it to be any longer than that. So, alright, cool. Well, thank you for watching, as always. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. This patch goes live tomorrow. I believe it's going to be on sale for roughly like $15, like normal. There's also some really cool music DLC. Do be advised that it's not something you can use on YouTube. It's the Sabaton music pack. Pretty awesome music. Really fits well with playing as like a horde, and there's some just really great, good stuff. So, very exciting patch. Can't wait to see everything that changes, you know. There's just so much more to experience now. So, alright, well thank you for watching. I'll see you again in the next video. See you soon.